One thing I want to challenge you to be is a leader of your business. The separation is always in the preparation. So my confidence always comes from how prepared I am when I speak. I told you. One thing I want to challenge you to be is a leader of your business, whether it's just you're a leader of one, which is you as a salesperson, or a leader of 10 as a team, or a company of 25,000 employees, is you must become evangelical about your cause and your mission. The greatest business people have an evangelical property about them. They're evangelizing all the time. They're propagating the strengths, the benefits of their business, of their mission, of their cause. One of the great evangelists of all time is Steve Jobs. There's a great book written by a guy named Guy Kawasaki many years ago called Selling the Dream. And in that book, he talks about the way that Steve Jobs sold the dream of Apple, and he literally called him an evangelist for the cause. There's a great story in that book about Steve Jobs when he was recruiting. He knew he needed to have a CEO of his company, and he wanted to have the best. And at that time, there was a man named Scully who was the head of Pepsi, and Jobs was this young kid in his 20s trying to recruit this executive who had made millions of dollars, and he couldn't get him, and he couldn't get him, and he couldn't get him. And finally, he gets the voicemail back in those days, the answering machine actually of Scully, and he says, Listen, man, when you're tired of selling sugar water to kids over there at Pepsi and you want to come change the world, frickin' call me back and we'll do it together. Boom, and he hangs up, right? He was evangelical about the cause. Sugar water and Pepsi changed the world at Apple, right? And Scully, who's making millions of dollars, he's CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the world, looks to his wife and she says, I think he's right. We aren't changing the world. And it was that one cause-oriented evangelical phone call from Steve Jobs, and it exuded out of his pores. Every stage speech he gave, every one-on-one, every board meeting, when he'd meet with their software engineers, when he'd meet with the programmers, he was always evangelical, internally and externally, and built a culture of one of the greatest movements of all time in the history of business. There's great lessons there about being evangelical. The greatest presidential or political leaders have an evangelical property about them. The greatest salespeople do. The greatest dads, the greatest pastors, they're evangelical, aren't they? So you've got to become more of an evangelist for your cause and your mission.
I know for me, taking action really builds confidence. You know, sometimes you almost have to fake it until you make it. If you just act confident, you start to feel confident. Do you think that that's true?
100%. You can't, I say this all the time, I can't teach you how to steer a parked car, right? You have to be in motion, you have to be moving, and people wonder, have I really made a decision? The real way we know if you've made a decision to make a change is that it's followed up with immediate, massive action, as you said. And that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people invested in personal development to make it more complicated than it really is, as if there's these secrets, you know, whether it's the authors of the books or mentors or whoever it is. In fact, even you might be invested if you can make it yourself believe that winning is complex, because really complexity is the enemy of execution, right? But if you can make yourself think it's complex, then it's really not your fault you haven't won yet, because you're missing something, rather than it probably being what it really is that you're unwilling or avoiding the work you need to do to really go build your company or build your field force or build your body or build your life. And so it's being able to simplify things and really know that there is no key to really winning. The key is the hard work and keeping things as simple as you can.
So you are one of the greatest, not just influencers, but and speakers publicly.
Thank you.
That are in the world right now. For those that, you know, are looking to step up and become a brand right now. They have that desire. They want to become speakers. You know, how do you master that craft of being able to get into a flow and really connect with your audience?
That'll be a long answer, but I'll give you a few. One, watch good ones. Watch the people that are out there. How do they deliver their message? Where do they hold their hands? I'm not saying you should copy people. I'm saying study it. Study I studied, because it was pre-social media, I studied preachers on TV. To this day, I watch stand-up comedians constantly. I'm addicted to it because they're funny, and I watch how they roll out a line. I watch how they deliver a message. I watch, do they walk when they talk? Do they stop when they're making the important point? How do they use their hands? Do they raise their voice? Do they lower their voice? How comfortable are they with silence? So I watch people who can communicate all the time. The separation is always in the preparation. So my confidence always comes from how prepared I am when I speak. I told you earlier, I need to prepare for tomorrow. I know what I'm going to say, but I've got to really prepare. My confidence, the separation for me, comes in the preparation. I'll give one tip to everybody. No one will tell you when it comes to speaking, okay? Write the finish first. Write what you're going to say last first. We've all watched that person speak who can't stop. They gave everyone writes, I better know what I'm going to say first because I'm scared of that part. That's when I walk out and, whoo, hello, I'm here. So they know what they're going to say first when they're on a stage or on Instagram, the beginning of the video. You kind of know the middle because it's the point you're going to make. What you don't know is how to finish. That's when your video goes over the 1 minute line. That's when you're speaking on stage, you're like, you've said your thing, but you're trying to end on a high. You never wrote the finish. So I always start with the last 1 minute of my speech or the last 10 seconds of my Instagram video. That's my out every single time. If you watch a comic, the funniest joke doesn't always have to be the last one, but they always know what the last one is before they walk out on the stage first. Like, left to my own devices, right? If you just left me like what I'd like to do, hey man, I have no problem laying around. I like sleeping. Like, people think, they meet people like, they're robots, they're other life forms, they're just different than me. No, we build habits, rituals, and disciplines that serve us, okay? Now, part of those habits, rituals, and disciplines have sort of turned me into a more confident person. There's no question about that. So my standards are mandatory because you get your standards, right? So the reason my standards are set so high is because I don't want to leave it up to my own devices, right? My standard is 1 more minute on the treadmill. My standard is 1 more person I could reach that day, 1 more phone call, 1 more something. And so for me, I raise them every single year, but the way I get to do it is I link it to my reasons. And so goals are really empty to me. I have a thing on goal setting, but like my big thing is that you show me someone with compelling, emotional, gigantic reasons, I'll show you someone who's changing their standards all day long. So like, give you one quick version that you've not heard before. One of the reasons I'm relatively fit is not just peak state. I have an uncle in my family that died at 50 years old of a heart attack. He's my godfather, my dad's only brother. I kind of resemble him. And I look like him a lot. So on the way back from his funeral, my reticular activator's on heart attacks. On the TV screen on the airplane, I'm listening to music, is the Oprah Winfrey show. She's going through a new heart scan. I've unplugged my headphones, plug it into the airplane one. They're talking about this new scan at Cedars-Sinai that at that time was new. It could read the plaques in your arteries, the calcifications, without going, really invasively. I scheduled it. I went in. I had a world-class doctor who understood reasons and leverage instead of just prescribing. When we coach people, you need to do this, you need to do this. Doctors do it. Take this pill, take this. He understood leverage and reasons. What you do is you take the scan, then you go to lunch, you come back. I took the scan, I went to lunch, I had a burrito. I came back and I'm in when I walk in, I sit down, the doctor comes up and he says, oh my, I can't believe these arteries are in that young body. Got my attention. We walk back in, we sit down. He could still go, you need Crestor, eat clean, get out of here. Isn't that what an average doctor does, right? No, wired me with huge reasons. He goes, let me ask you a question. I heard your wife's pregnant. I said, yeah, I have a son. And he says, do you want to be there when he graduates from high school? To be there for that day? I said, yes, sir, yeah. He goes, your wife's pregnant. What do you have? And I said, a daughter. This is where you get a dad. He goes, she was 6 months pregnant. He goes, would you like to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day, or are you okay that it's some other man? I went, what the fuck is on this scan, right? And he goes, I want to be very clear with you. If you keep going down the road you're going, there'll be some other man with your son at graduation high school, and a stranger's walking your daughter down the aisle that's not even born yet on her wedding day. And I went, boom. And he goes, but if you do exactly what I tell you to do, you'll be there. And so to this day, brother, there are mornings when I wake up, not every morning, I don't want to go to the gym. I go, Bella's wedding, Bella's wedding, Bella's wedding. So my standards are high because of my big old reasons. Other dudes may miss the gym that day because they're not going to miss their daughter's wedding if they don't go. But I've convinced myself, I'm going to get emotional. I've convinced myself I'll miss my daughter's wedding. So I will get my ass out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and I will get to that gym because my reasons are bigger, so my standards are higher. So that's what I think causes us to have great standards, is huge reasons.
I can't transfer to you something that I'm not experiencing myself. So a lot of times people say, well, I want to transfer to people leadership, or I want to influence them to buy my product, or I want to grow my company. You have to really believe these things. You have to really be consistent with your values, because you can't give me something you don't have. And so really successful people, really influential people, powerful people are congruent. They actually live and believe the things they say and do.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.